Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to DCM Shriram Limited Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Siddharth Rangnekar from CDR India. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on DCM Shriram Limited's Q1 FY22 earnings conference call. Today we have with us Mr. Ajay Shriram, Chairman and Senior Managing Director, Mr. Vikram Shriram, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Ajit Shriram, Joint Managing Director, Mr. K.K. Kaul, Whole-Time Director, and Mr. Amit Agarwal, CFO of the company. We will commence with the opening remarks with Mr. Ajay Shriram and Mr. Vikram Shriram, following which we will have an interactive question and answer session. Before we begin, please note that some of the statements made on today's call could be forward-looking in nature, and a note to that effect has been included in the conference call invite circulated earlier. I would now like to invite Mr. Ajay Shriram to give us a brief overview on the company's performance and his views going forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Siddharth. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us on our earnings call for the first quarter of financial year 22. I trust all of you have been keeping safe and healthy. Please take adequate precautions in terms of timely vaccination, masks, and social distancing. I will share my thoughts on operating performance and the strategic direction of our businesses. After that, Vikram will give you the financial perspective. Our businesses have registered a healthy operating performance despite the challenges of the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic. This was enabled by a better economic environment in Q1 financial year 22 versus the same period last year, as well as the strong business model of our businesses that has evolved over the period of time. I must mention that the dedication of our employees during these difficult times has been absolutely remarkable. Our focus on scale, integration, and cost efficiencies helps us in managing our businesses better in such an environment. Continuing with this strategy, our board has approved following new projects. First, the expansion of our ethanol capacity with a new 120,000 kiloliters.
Mr. Shriram, we can't hear you.
Bhaiya, you're on. We can't hear you.
Participants, please stay connected while we reconnect the line for Mr. Shriram. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay connected while we reconnect the line.
Hello. Yeah, thanks.
Participants, thank you for patiently holding your lines. We have the line from Mr. Ajay Shriram reconnected. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for this. My phone line got cut off. So just to continuing with this strategy, our board has approved following new projects. One is expansion of ethanol capacity with a new 120 kiloliters per day multi-feed grain-based distillery at our Ajbapur factory. Second is optimizing the configuration of our under construction 120 megawatt power plant at Bharuch to sell up to 90 tons per hour steam. Third is replacement of 3 electrolyzers at a Kota factory unit which will be more efficient and based on the latest technology to reduce power consumption and marginally increase capacity. Further, we have now decided to initiate the expansion of 700 tons per day chlor-alkali capacity along with 500 tons per day flaker capacity at the Bharuch complex that was put on hold because of uncertainties caused by COVID-19. All these steps will further strengthen our businesses. With that, I would like to share with you the business-wise key developments. First is sugar. Government policy for continued support to ethanol and export of sugar is reaping the benefits for the industry and the farmers. In sugar season 2021, sugar exports was about 7 million tons and diversion of sugar to ethanol using B-heavy molasses is about 2 million tons. As a result, domestic sugar inventory is expected to come down to approximately 8 million tons by September 21 versus 10.5 million tons last year. We sold less sugar this quarter since total sugar available for sale was about 36 lakh quintals versus 56 lakh quintals last year in the same period. Lower availability sugar leads to lower allocation of monthly release quota by the government. Exports were low since we exported most of our sugar quota by Q4 financial year 21, and this year no additional export quota was allocated. The quarter end inventory was 25 lakh quintals versus 34.5 lakh quintals in the corresponding period. Domestic sugar prices remained firm and are around rupees 3,250 to rupees 3,300 per quintal. Our distillery volumes grew by 9% year on year. B-heavy mix was about 94% of sales volume versus 73% during Q1 financial year 21. Keeping in line with our focus and continued government support for ethanol, the new 120 kiloliters per day multi-feed grain-based distillery at a capital expenditure of rupees 145 crores has been approved by the board. This is expected to be commissioned by Q2 financial year 23. Chemicals. The current quarter beginning saw demand recovering to pre-COVID levels. Our volumes on year-to-year basis were significantly higher because in the corresponding period last year, there was lower demand in production as a result of the nationwide lockdown. Even sequentially, Q1 financial year 22 saw higher volumes by 5% despite some impact of the second wave on the demand during current quarter. Industry is operating at about 85% capacity utilization. The ECU prices continue to be at reasonable levels and international prices of cotton continue to remain firm. The 120 megawatt power plant is expected to be commissioned by June 22 and is expected to bring further cost efficiencies in addition to asset optimization benefits by selling up to 90 tons per hour steam. This asset optimization will entail a capital expenditure of rupees 31 crores. 120 megawatt power plant along with the said modification will be implemented in Q1 financial year 23. Earlier announced downstream projects are progressing as per schedule and will enable forward integration. New investment for replacing 3 electrolyzers at Kota Chemical Unit at a cost of approximately rupees 44 crores will reduce power consumption with marginal increase in capacity. This will be completed by Q4 financial year 22. We will now start implementation of our 700 tons per day chlor-alkali expansion along with the 500 tons per day flaker, which was on hold due to uncertainties posed by the pandemic. This will further increase our scale and is expected to be completed by Q4 financial year 23. Vinyls and plastics. PVC import prices have seen some correction to $1,420 per metric ton in May and June after reaching a high of over $1,650 metric tons in April 21. Domestic prices are following international prices since more than half of the domestic demand is met by imports. Prices still remain attractive. The business manifested lower demand during the current quarter vis-à-vis Q4 financial year 21 owing to the second wave of COVID-19. However, it is likely to make up in the coming quarters. Agri-inputs. This segment covers Shriram Farm Solutions, Bioseed, and fertilizer business. During the first quarter, the rural areas were severely affected by the second wave of COVID-19. Further, delayed monsoon has caused sluggishness in sowing. Bioseed India operations saw impact of the pandemic and erratic monsoon, particularly in the institutional segment. Acreages have been lower. International operations continue to show good growth. We have taken steps to rationalize this business along with the product portfolio. Our research has a good product pipeline. This makes us believe that Bioseed India business will deliver satisfactory performance over the medium term. All product categories of SFS had stable revenues. However, the main season for this business is the Rabi season. Fertilizer plant operated at 75% capacity during the quarter due to a compressor being out of commission. Plant is operating normally now. Subsidy outstanding remain at lower levels compared to the past trends. The subsidy outstanding as on 30th June 2021 is rupees 222 crores vis-à-vis rupees 650 crores as on 30th June 2020 and rupees 153 crores 31st March 21. Fenesta recovered to pre-COVID levels during second half of financial year 21. In Q1 financial year 22, there was marginal impact on volumes. Business is back to normal operations now. Fenesta is continuously focusing on accelerating the growth trajectory by improving geographical presence and product offerings in both UPVC and system aluminum segments and enhancing customer service. Going forward, it will be our constant objective to invest in creating meaningful value-added opportunities for volume growth across our businesses, including adjacencies. We will continue to keep our balance sheet strong along with growing our businesses. With this, I would now like to invite Vikram to discuss the perspectives on our financial performance. Vikram, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by sharing that given our improving financial performance over the last year and plans to further strengthen the businesses, our long-term credit rating has been upgraded to A++ from A++ by ICRA. Our short-term rating is at A1+ by ICRA and CRISIL. I will now take you through the financial highlights for our Q1 FY22 results. Net revenues during the quarter came in at rupees 1,957 crores versus 1,912 crores during Q1 financial year 21. Revenue, including excise duty on country liquor, which started sales in this quarter, was rupees 2,008 crores. The key highlights on the revenues are as follows. Higher volumes in chemicals and Fenesta business were due to a lower base in Q1 financial year 21 due to lockdowns during the first wave of COVID-19 last year. Revenues chemical business is up by 76% at rupees 412 crores. The improvement was led by volume and prices. Sequentially also, the business has performed better. Fenesta revenues are up by 168% at rupees 108 crores. Quarter on quarter, the business witnessed marginal decline. The vinyl business revenues stood at rupees 186 crores versus 82 crores during Q1 financial year 21, primarily driven by prices of both PVC and carbide. Volumes were also higher year on year during Q1 financial year 22 on account of lower base in Q1 financial year 21, as mentioned earlier. Quarter on quarter, the PVC sales volumes were lower by 34% and carbide volumes were lower by 24% because of the second wave of pandemic. However, since the production was at normal levels, we expect to cover up during the rest of the year. Sugar business net revenues net of excise were down 36% year-on-year at rupees 563 crores, primarily impacted by lower sugar and power sales volumes. Sugar and power volumes had an impact of negative approximately 360 crores in the quarter. Domestic sales volumes stood at 10.5 lakh quintals versus 16.3 lakh quintals in the corresponding period last year. Export volumes were lower at 0.2 lakh quintals versus 5 lakh quintals in Q1 financial year 21. The reasons for the lower sales volumes have already been explained. Power volumes for Q1 financial year 22 were lower at 294 lakh units versus 634 lakh units last year due to current sugar season ending early by about 23 days versus the same period last year. Higher distillery volumes were 9% and the higher prices of sugar as well as ethanol were a positive for the business. SFS Q1 financial year 22 revenues were marginally up by 1% year-on-year at 212 crores. All product categories had stable revenues. Bioseed India revenues were down 6% year-on-year. The India operations were lower by 19% year-on-year at 136 crores due to lower volumes in corn and paddy. Second wave of COVID-19 and delayed monsoon has impacted the volumes. Bioseed Philippines witnessed a 69% surge in revenues at rupees 51 crores. Fertilizer revenues were up 8% year-on-year at rupees 220 crores. Higher prices, up 15%, are a reflection of higher gas prices, which are a pass-through. Volumes were lower 20% year-on-year as well as quarter-on-quarter as a result of the partial breakdown mentioned earlier. Fertilizer revenues also includes amount of 33 crores received for price revisions relating to previous years. Coming to profitability, in Q1 financial year 22, PBDIT stood at 300 crores, higher by 56% year-on-year. The key reason for higher PBDIT were higher revenues in chemicals, vinyl and Fenesta businesses, which were significantly impacted by the first wave of COVID-19 last year. Sugar and Bioseed PBDIT were impacted in current quarter due to lower revenues. Margins on sugar as well as ethanol were better. However, overall PBDIT margins were lower year-on-year since crushing was for 14 days versus 37 days in the same period last year, and quarter-on-quarter also it was lower since crushing in quarter 4 was for 90 days versus 14 days in quarter 1 financial year 22. This impacted the costs charged to profit and loss for the period and are loaded onto inventory during the season. The chlorovinyl and Fenesta businesses faced cost pressures due to rising commodity prices. PAT for quarter 1 financial year 22 stood at rupees 158 crores versus 69 crores during quarter 1 financial year 21. On the balance sheet front, net debt at 30th June 21 stood at 122 crores versus 1,167 crores as of 30th June last year and rupees 180 crores as of 31st March 21. The reduction in debt over June 20 is the result of lower sugar inventory and significantly lower urea subsidy outstanding. The company's prudent approach towards capital expenditure and working capital management across businesses also led to lower net debt. Our ROCE came in at 20.8% for first quarter 22 versus 18% for first quarter last year, financial year 21. Overall, we have started the new fiscal year on a steady footing. Our balance sheet position remains strong and will ensure healthy liquidity position, at the same time enabling us to all required capital expenditure programs and growth programs which are underway and under development. That brings me to the end of the financial discussion, and we will be happy to take questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to clarify, Siddharth. I'm Ajit Sriram this side. Our long-term credit rating has been upgraded to AA+ from AA by ICRA. It was wrongly mentioned by mistake, A++. It's AA+.
Oh,
thanks.
Sorry.
Thank you. Shall we begin with the question and answer session?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. We have the first question from the line of Chirag Sureka from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon. Congratulations
Good
on
afternoon.
the performance and the upgrade in credit rating. My question was on the debt profile over the next 1-2 years. You've made significant progress in reducing your debt levels, but given the capex, would you envisage a substantial increase in debt levels over the next 2 years? The rough math that we have worked out is about 700-800 crores. So I just thought I'll hear your comments on that.
Amit, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, so you're right. We should, by this year, and we should be close to that number. But then progressively, we have to see what our capex plans are. For this year, in ballpark, this should be the number.
Thank you, sir. That was my only question. Thanks a lot. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on good numbers. And good to hear that the next leg of capex is happening. So my question is on chlor-alkali. So what has prompted us to relook at the expansion plans? And if you could just give us what has changed in terms of dynamics of the segment in the last 3-4 months. And in terms of domestic dynamics, are there any more players who would be putting up the capacity? So how the competitive intensity scenario? Thank you.
The chlor-alkali business, you're right, we took a view about a month ago that we will go ahead with this project now. This is in 2-3 reasons. One is it's linked to our 120 megawatt power plant also, which will give us economical price power, by which our cost of production will be very competitive. That is one advantage. Second advantage is now, besides caustic soda, chlorine, we also have hydrogen. And hydrogen is again a value-added product, which is being sold to various customers around us. So that also contributes to the bottom line. And thirdly, we felt that really getting economies of scale at a single location, today also with 1,350 tons a day location in Gujarat, we are the largest single location plant. We will become 2,000 tons per day plus. That will give us economies of scale, which will again give us an advantage compared to competition. So we took a view it's better to get into it because, something or the other, in commodities, little upar niche will always happen. But are we competitive? Are we world class? That is the criteria. And we think that putting in this investment, putting in this expansion with the power plant will give us an edge to be world class. So that's why we took this decision.
Right. And any other capacities which are planned and which may come up along with our capacity?
I think there are a couple of big monies coming just now. I am not aware of anyone else coming right now. I think a couple of them are coming in this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think Aditya Birla Group is doing a little bit and Big One is doing something. But you never know. I mean, these are businesses where the growth happens. For instance, we have the advantage that Nalco and Balco, which are the two aluminium manufacturing plants in India, who are importing caustic soda earlier, they are now buying from the domestic market. So that's created its own demand. So, like this, the market keeps changing. But I think our objective of being competitive and being among the lowest cost producers, that is what we are trying to achieve continuously.
Understood. So the second question is on the PVC front. So we have seen the prices coming off. How are we looking at the domestic demand and the pricing scenario generally for the next foreseeable future? Thank you.
KK would like to answer that.
Yes. I think we are expecting, the demand has recovered a bit, which had come down in June. In July, it has recovered, and we hope in coming months it will recover further. In terms of prices, which had seen a bottom sometime in June, have also recovered, and we believe they will recover further in the coming months. And we're expecting it to go by another $40, $50 at least in the next 1 or 2 months. And stay firm for at least 2 more quarters.
Right. That's encouraging. Thanks a lot and best of luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Karthik from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
So hi, thank you for taking my question. So I just wanted to quickly follow up on the chlor-alkali expansion that you mentioned regarding the 120 megawatt power. So how exactly is it adding to the economic power pricing? Like is it to do with a replacement of coal and we going with some other technology, or can you elaborate on that, sir?
No, yeah, sure. Actually, if we don't put up our own power plant, we have to buy power from the grid, which is from the Gujarat State Electricity Board. There, the cost of power is 7 rupees plus. Whereas if we put up our own, we are in the range of 4 rupees, 50 paisa. And as you are aware, I'm sure, the coal price in the international market, because we get only imported coal for our Gujarat factory, the coal price also fluctuates up and down. So whenever it comes down a little bit, we have an added advantage over there. And the third point is that the plant coming up now, 120 megawatts, as technology is keeping on improving, each new plant we put up is more efficient than the one we put up 2 years ago. So this plant is more efficient, and the cost of producing power is lower than what it would be for the older plants. So that gives us an edge again. So it is a coal price issue it's a coal price issue, it's a power rate issue vis-a-vis the state government, where we would have to buy it if we didn't manufacture our own, did not generate our own power, and of course the efficiency of a new plant.
Sure, sir. That's great. And with the expansion you already mentioned regarding hydrogen, it will give us more of hydrogen, which will help us in economy of scale and hydrogen peroxide expansion?
Hydrogen peroxide plant is still under implementation. That's a new plant and a new value-added business down the line. We are going into hydrogen peroxide. We're going into ECH and glycerin purification thereon. So we are looking at these projects for value-add down the line in any case. But more hydrogen is also a good thing because there's a good realization for that too.
Okay, understood, sir. So, and have you finalized on the technology for ECH? Because in the last call you mentioned you're more or less there.
We have. Has anyone
finalized?
Yeah, we have finalized.
Okay, that's great, sir. So, and just to touch upon the sugar inventory situation that mentioned, that lead to lesser sales this time, and I see that as a monthly quota allocation for DCM in July has gone up to almost 4.1 lakh quintal. So, how do we see it for Q2? I mean, given that the inventory level was even further down from March, do we expect a better sales coming in for this Q2?
See, basically, as far as the sugar inventory is concerned, as it was mentioned in the opening remarks, the total sugar available for sale was 36 lakh quintals this year versus 56 lakh quintals last year. Now, the release mechanism is such that is proportionate to the stock level that you have. So it's very difficult to sort of quantify what the release would be for the following year, because this also involves how much B-heavy you diverted for manufacturing of ethanol. That gives you a little additional release. So there are many factors which are involved in the factory-wise release. So we have 4.2 lakh quintals this month, as you mentioned. It will be difficult to quantify what will happen next month or the following.
Understood. So because
But it will be in line with all the other factories or all the other companies as a percentage on a broad level.
Sure. So no, I'm just trying to understand it. On the year basis, I get it. Hovers around that region. But on a monthly basis, we do get allocated and by the Ministry of Food, the list is released. I'm just trying to understand what other factor other than the inventory situation, because if it's just the inventory, as you said, being affects it a lot, because our inventory currently is even lower than Q4. So I'm just trying to understand if that will have a greater impact in this quarter.
See, you need to look at it from the perspective that having a lower inventory, even the same period last year we had a lower inventory because we sold more. Right? So that function of lower inventory will continue. That delta of lower inventory is there in both the periods. But then the other factor also is what is the demand, what is the levels of demand that government is looking at. That is another factor which will play a role in terms of allocation.
Got it. So incrementally for this quarter, if there's a better demand, we could see better results. And it's sort of like in July, the allocation was higher. You're saying a better demand environment might have the average of
that's the reason why it's difficult to really give you the numbers. But yes, what is available for sale does make an impact, but it doesn't mean that it will be linear.
Sure.
See, as far as demand also is concerned,
yeah.
As far as demand also is concerned, it depends on the festive seasons. So, generally in September, October, the releases are a little higher than July, August.
Sure, sir. So, in fact, in ethanol, we had a very good quarter with 94% conversion from B heavy. Are we expecting this levels to go forward? Because generally we are around 60 to 70. So, what's the outlook in that particular segment, sir?
We plan to maximize our B heavy to ethanol going forward.
Okay, that's great. And also this
so as was mentioned, it was about 70%, 67-70% the previous year. We've increased that to 94%. Going forward, also we will maximize our B heavy to ethanol.
Okay, so that's great to hear because that directly does affect our inventories also going forward, and that's why I was curious if there is any management in that front where you get in a situation where you have to probably cut down on the B heavy.
No, for example, in the previous sugar season we diverted 4.5 lakh quintals of sugar equivalent to B heavy, and this year we diverted 7 lakhs quintals of sugar to B heavy. So that's the trend that's going on, and we will try and maximize B heavy to ethanol.
That's great, sir. So in country liquor, as a net revenue, we had a 50 crore coming in from this quarter. Could you have any sense of the margin contribution from that front?
Amit, will you take this?
Yeah. See, the net revenue on country liquor was only about 5 crores because so total sales was close to 55-56. Out of that, large part, the majority of it is excise duty. So the net revenue is only 5 crores. So initial stages to give you a margin because we are just getting into the market. So we are creating the market. So I think it's the initial stage to give you a margin number.
Sure,
smaller revenue.
We expect this sort of a volume to carry forward in coming quarters, right?
The volume should improve given that there was COVID, so the volumes were lower. So we do expect volumes to improve, but there is seasonality factor here as well, depending on monsoons and things like that. But definitely volumes will improve as we go forward, but it will always remain a small part of the overall business.
Sure, sir. Let me just finish with my one last question. Regarding this new ethanol plant that's coming up with grain-based, you mentioned it to be multi-field, but I'm just trying to understand what percentage of it would be from probably grains and from the broken rice. Do we have any sourcing proposition there, and what's the margin level that we're expecting from that plant?
See, as far as sourcing of grain concerned, we're planning to use broken rice, and there's adequate availability of broken rice in our region. So we're not seeing that as a issue. And also, as mentioned, it's a multi-feed distillery plant. So we can use cane juice, we can use BAV, we can use broken rice, we can use wheat or sweet sorghum, etc. And maize. So there are many options as far as the feed is concerned.
Sure, sir. And what's the margin levels we expect from this plant? Will it be very similar to the one we have already in sugar?
The margin profile for this, the EBITDA margin should be in the range of around 25%.
25%, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it from my end, sir. Thank you so much for taking my question. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to participants that you may press star and 1 to join the question queue. The next question is from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. And congratulations on very strong set of numbers in the current quarter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, a couple of questions. First is on this caustic soda, where you have once again taken the decision to go ahead with the capex, which earlier was put on hold because of the changing dynamics. Sir, I just wanted to understand that is this decision of caustic soda and going ahead on this chlor-alkali plant, is there any change in structural dynamics of the country? Like, in most of the other countries, the chlor-alkali chain is mainly driven by the chlorine pricing, while the caustic soda is treated more as a byproduct. While in India, it's opposite of that because of the less usage of the industrial chemicals and the chlorine-based derivatives. Do you see that there are changes happening in the industry because of the downstream chemical uses are rising? Many specialty chemicals are increasing their capacity. You also mentioned that you are seeing the strong demand for hydrogen peroxide and hydrogen-based derivatives. So is there any change in this chlor-alkali chain in India where going forward over next 2 to 3 years, the pricing of chlor-alkali will be more dependent on chlorine and chlorine-based derivatives rather than caustic soda? That will make this chain, chlor-alkali chain, a more stable product line rather than a commoditized product line.
Just to add what you're saying, that in India, frankly speaking, even today, caustic soda is the main product.
Right.
For instance, in the last couple of months, we've seen the caustic soda prices have firmed up a little bit, but chlorine prices have softened a little bit. That has actually happened. And I think a couple of reasons for that is India is now getting more well-versed in exporting caustic soda, whether in lye form or flakes form. So that's also an advantage where we can tap and get into the international market. For instance, there is a contract recently signed between 3-4 manufacturers to export 25,000 tons of caustic soda lye to the international market. That's also moving. We ourselves last year exported about 30,000 tons of lye and flakes, or 35,000 tons, and this year we expected to go to 65,000 tons. So I'm saying the international market is also picking up, and the export of caustic soda lye and flakes, both of them have started moving, which is a good thing. So I think down the line, see, a commodity is a commodity. There will be tugs and pulls. But in India, we are seeing caustic soda is still the main product. Chlorine consumption is up a little bit, but it's very difficult to say. Like international markets, you're rightly saying that chlorine becomes the main product and caustic is more like a byproduct. But India is still the other way around. And I think it's going to carry on for some years.
Okay. But despite rising demand for hydrogen and hydrogen peroxide and down the line, you don't see that there will be any significant change in this chlor-alkali chain in India for at least next 2 to 4 years?
It's very difficult to say. It depends what sort of value-added chemicals come into the country, where the chlorine demand goes up a little more. Hydrogen is a separate product which goes into hydrogen peroxide, plus it's got its own uses across the board. We have 4-5 customers who take pipeline hydrogen from us, from our caustic soda factory in Gujarat, and they use it for various other products. So hydrogen has its own set of uses. That is separate. Chlorine has its own set of uses, and caustic soda has its own set of uses. So it's very difficult to give any prediction as to what will be the priority 2 years or 4 years down the line.
Okay. Sir, right now I think our chlorine-based captive usage is roughly 30%, and with the ECH plant coming in, it is likely to go up to almost 50 to 65% consumption in-house for the chlorine, right?
Yes, it will go up because we are expanding our aluminum chloride plant also from 60 tons a day. We're going up to 150 tons a day. So that will also increase the chlorine consumption. And epichlorohydrin is also going to come up after, I think, about 4 quarters, or 4 or 5 quarters. That will also start taking chlorine. So chlorine consumption in-house will keep going up.
It will go to 50%, but my question was on this after the 700 tons per day. Sorry.
Let me just correct you. What CMD said is right, that with our chlorine downstream projects coming up, our consumption will go up. So currently, if you look at in our Bharuch plant, if we exclude HCl, then our captive consumption is around 4%. That will go up to around 21% once these plants come up at existing capacity. And once the new capacity comes in, and assuming the aluminum chloride and ECH, which will consume the chlorine, they remain at the same capacity levels, then the overall captive consumption will be around 14%.
14%. Okay.
And the chlorine consumption in our Kota factory, Amit, wo bhi bata dijiye.
Yeah, and the chlorine consumption Kota factory is in the range of 35 to 40%. Captive consumption.
Okay.
That goes into PVC. Yeah.
That goes into PVC. Right. Sir, second question was on your grain-based distillery, where you have taken an initiative of putting a 145 crore capex of 120 KLD. You have already mentioned in an earlier phone call that you just don't want to be based on sugar cane, but also want to go with the multi-grain distillery. Sir, given that your company has a solid cash flow and will keep on bringing cash flows going forward, do you see that the grain-based distillery of 120 KLD just on a pilot project? And if it works and the dynamics works, then there is a huge opportunity for you as a company to put up this expansion and keep on adding more grain-based distilleries in future. Just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
See, the government's been extremely proactive on the ethanol front. As you're aware, that they have brought forward the 20% blending target for all India basis from 2030 to 2025. So yes, ethanol is a very sensitive territory.
Sir, I think it was further reduced to 23, isn't it?
Sorry?
Sir, earlier it was brought back to 25, but I think the target has now
there's a bit of confusion over there. There's a bit of confusion over there. But as on date, they've brought it forward to 2025. Now, even to achieve this target from our current 8% blend to 20% blend is a huge challenge. So yes, a lot more distilleries are in the pipeline today. We are expanding our distillery, and we do hope to expand further. But it will be difficult to comment at this point of time because we have to first discuss internally. Yes, but there is a very good opportunity over there.
And sir, what will be the dynamics of this grain-based distillery? It will be similar to what the kind of payback period we had in a sugarcane distillery, which was roughly, I think, 3 to 4 years of payback period.
Basically, you have to have attachment. The distillery part is identical to your cane juice or the sugar distillery. There's only one attachment which you have to add in the beginning to process the grain into powder and take it forward.
Oh.
Is that clear?
Sir, slightly confusing. My question was straightforward that what is the payback period for this grain-based distillery, assuming that you get the grain within the catchment area?
Yeah, the payback we are looking at is a 30% ROI.
Okay, that answers it. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nirav Jimudia from Anvil Research. Please go ahead.
Sir, I had 2-part questions on chemicals.
Yeah.
So first on the caustic soda. So we have on the chemical side, So we have reported something around 92 crores of PBIT from the chemicals division. So this includes both your caustic as well as the value-added product contribution. So if you can help us explain how much is the contribution from the value-added products like aluminum chloride, hydrogen, and SBB. I think these are the 3 value-added products currently in our portfolio. So this is one. Second is on, you mentioned prior that we rely on the imported coal for our power plants. So if you can
Correct.
help us understand, like, because the coal cost has gone up in the international market, so how are the dynamics works? Like, if we consider $5 to $10 increase in the coal cost, how does it impact our generation cost in rupees per unit? So let's say if our generation cost currently is 4 rupees 50 paisa, and if coal cost goes up by $10 in the international market, how does it impact? Because it also depends upon the calorific value, if I presume it correct. So this is first set of questions, sir.
Yeah, I'll just take one, and then I'll ask Amit to give the other for detail. That's a lot of detailed accounts data you're asking for. I don't have, but I'll just mention this thing.
Yeah.
That you're right. That one is we get coal generally of 5,000 CV.
Okay.
So that is a sort of a fixed benchmark.
Okay.
You don't alter that too much.
Okay.
With a particular sulfur content and with a particular NOx, SOx, etc., etc.
Okay.
But that is as per the pollution control norms.
Correct.
We have to emit the flue gas has to be of a particular quality.
Correct.
So that is a benchmark which is there straight away. You're right. In the last couple of months, the coal price from Indonesia, where we get a lot of coal, has gone up from about $70 to $90.
Yeah.
So that has an impact. I'll ask Amit if he knows the figure of how much is the impact of this in terms of cost of generation of coal, as well as on the first question, Amit, which is the breakup of the cost of the profit breakup of the chemicals business.
Yeah. So in terms of the contribution by the value-added products on the total EBITDA, this quarter it would be around 25% coming from the other products other than lye. But then, this percentage will keep varying depending on what we are realizing on chemicals, on the core chemicals, which is caustic soda coating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this quarter it is around 25% and driven primarily by hydrogen.
Okay. Got it. And sir, on that generation cost, if you can help us understand.
The generation cost of coal.
Yeah.
Of power.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's quite, we generally don't talk about what is our cost of generation. But yes, it is very competitive, and that is the reason why our margins have been good. And even the times when the caustic prices went, or the ECU went down to around 21,000.
Yeah.
Still we were making reasonable margins. So that is driven by the fact that our price, the power cost is reasonable.
Yeah.
Which is almost 65% of the total cost of production.
Okay. So my second question is on ECH. So what we have seen in last couple of months that ECH prices have been moving up continuously, probably driven by the epoxy prices, because I think that's the main application for ECH, and I think they have gone up by 50-60%. So just want to check on the raw materials, like how do the glycerin prices have moved up in last few months, and what sort of agreements do we normally enter, or are we intending to enter for the glycerin? Because I think we'll be importing crude glycerin and we'll be refining here. What we have
I want to just clarify that we are in the process of putting up the plant.
Okay.
So the plant will take another 4 quarters.
Okay.
So we've not gotten to the details yet.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for answering.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vinod Chandra Agarwal, who's an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Hi.
I just want to know about the ethanol plant expansion. So outside of this 120 kiloliters per day, what we have proposed, do we have further plan to expand of yours?
Mr. Vinod, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your voice is breaking. We can't hear you clearly.
Okay. Now, only? Are you able to properly now?
A little bit. Please try. Yeah. Please carry on.
Properly now? Are you able to hear proper now?
Yes, sir. Now it's fine. Please go ahead.
Okay. Know the bigger plan on the ethanol production side or the ethanol capacity addition side, because as you know that government has approved a lot of our applications which we would have made for the bigger expansion. So is there any like timeline to complete those, whatever the applications we have made for the future expansions? Is there any timelines to complete that?
As mentioned earlier, the current 120 KL plant, which is been approved by the board, will be commissioned in Q2 of FY23.
Mm-hmm. No, outside of this 120 kiloliter, is there any plan to expand further? Because there, you know that government has a big ambition to achieve that, and we also made a bigger applications, right, on the to expand there. So, is there any like plan, or is there like that was only the applications what we have made to the government, that what we want to achieve in the future? But right now we are only proposing out of, I think, whatever that we have applied. Because in the list what I see where we have got the approval of the interim submission scheme, there are a bigger chunk of the ethanol plant is there which we have proposed. But right now we are only proposing 120. And I think government also has a deadline to complete after getting the approval of that scheme. So just wanted to know that what is our plan to complete like those whatever we have proposed to the government.
No, Mr. Agarwal, just to clarify, I mean, we are looking at the growth of the sugar business along with the ethanol and other chemicals on a continuous basis. Our cane development efforts are on, and we do hope to continually expand our existing factories, and along with that, we will look at further expansion of ethanol going forward.
Okay. And just, sir, another thought on that sour plant which we are adding. In that you said that the cost could come around 4 to 5 rupees, right? So I just had a thought. I'm not sure about how the dynamics works on that, but as you know that the solar plants which is available, or the solar plant provider, they just bid the amount around $2 to 3 rupees, right? So why can't we purchase directly from those type of producer who can provide that 3 rupees plant rather than that? I know it will work only for a daytime, but is there like issue if we can't purchase directly from that solar plant provider and solar energy provider rather than the Gujarat government or the Gujarat Power?
Vikram, Vikram, please.
I think at present the regulations for purchase of power and the charges levied by the state electricity boards for transmission, distribution and cross subsidy are still under formulation. So we are always actively looking at that as an opportunity. But it is not, because of the heavy cross subsidy charges and transmission charges. At present it is not viable. We are watching the policy, and we are watching it very closely in terms of opportunities for whether purchasing or going forward putting up our own plants in a distant location, viable location, and transmitting to ourselves. We are looking at all options.
Okay, understood. Thank you, sir. And so just last one question. Yeah, just one last question, sir, about the chemical sector. As you know that right now everyone is looking for China plus one strategy. So in that sector, do we have any plan to expand in those type of chemicals which will benefit that China plus one thought or the theme?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah,
I think we are looking both from the China plus one, and we are looking at other opportunities also. So we are looking at multiple opportunities in the chemical area. And in the course of the next year or so, or 6 months, whatever, things will start getting firmed up and taken up and approved by the board. So the plan is to look at further growth in chemical sector. And we are looking at multiple opportunities.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for taking my questions.
Thank you.
Good luck for the futures.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Asim Barde from DAM Capital Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. So I had two questions, both on the PVC business. So I think to an earlier participant, you talked about PVC prices would remain firm for the next 2 quarters at least. So can you talk about how is the supply situation globally at the current juncture? And if you could also comment on the visibility of supply for inputs that go to producing PVC.
Yes, you see, in terms of supply side constraints, which have been due to operational issues with some of the US producers, and also in China, the domestic producers have slowed down due to electricity usage restrictions in China, and China is also coming to the global market increasingly for importing PVC. So there are significant inquiries coming from China for PVC imports. Recently also there have been some flooding issues in Europe, largely in Germany and Belgium, which is also likely to include, affect the production issues in the European market. So in terms of supply side, constraints would continue. In terms of strong demand for PVC in US markets, the exports from US will also remain restricted. So we expect that the Asian offers would largely go to China, and so the global market is expected to be seeing supply side constraints, and the prices are likely to remain firm as they are today.
Okay, but can you?
Some of the freight issues are also still high, so they are also going to make the prices, importing it in India, the prices will continue to remain high.
Right, but on the supply side for inputs for PVC, is there a supply constraint there as well, or is there not much of a problem?
The ethylene, which is globally the material for the PVC production, ethylene, EDC, there doesn't seem to be any constraints in that. So ethylene, if the margins in PVC are good, it gets diverted from the other petrochemical products which are made. So we don't see any raw material side constraints. But in China, yes, because of the electricity usage restrictions, the carbide-based PVC is likely to come down because the carbide prices in China have gone very high. So in China, the raw material constraints, particularly in the carbide-based PVC, would be high.
Okay. But still fair to assume that for a while, given that PVC prices would be higher, but on the raw material side, things won't be that of a problem. Margins should still be higher for you guys, at least on this business.
Yeah, we also, like it was mentioned, power is for us in carbide-based PVC. Power is the main raw material. So the coal, whatever increase in coal prices is happening, that affects our cost also, but that's not, that's more than offset by the prices that we are getting today.
Right. And I think you just slightly touched upon expanding capacities in the chemicals business. Would you be looking to increase any capacity in PVC in particular?
As has been said, it's still under evaluation, so I don't think we have firmed up anything as of now.
And would you be aware if any competitors in the domestic market are planning to expand capacity?
Not the current manufacturers. Possibly some large projects have been announced, which are very big mega projects, but in the current manufacturers, I'm not aware about any expansion plans.
Okay. Well, just for my knowledge, if someone wants to set up a capacity right now, the lead time to set it up would still be long, right? Like 1.5 or 2 years long?
Yes, it would be of that order.
Okay. Sure, sir. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tejas from Nippon India Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Tejas, your voice is really low. We can't really hear you very well. If you're on a hands-free, request you to use the handset.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, sir. Much better.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
On the green-based ethanol, the realizations will be for BL.
Your voice is not clear. There's
Some disturbance, very strong disturbance.
Hello? Yes.
We seem to have lost the line for Mr. Tejas. We'll move to the next question. The next question is from the line of Navneet Bhaiya, who's an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congrats for a great set of numbers. My question was on the capex intensity. So currently, based on the projects that we've announced, we are doing about 1,100 odd crores per annum. With hopefully the COVID uncertainty reducing and our cash flows are pretty strong, balance sheet is also in a strong shape. Do you see this do you see any scope of this increasing, being a little more aggressive in terms of capex intensity?
I'll just put it this way, that the total projects which were decided earlier of the 120 megawatt plus the epichlorohydrin, hydrogen peroxide, expansion, aluminum chloride, etc., and the new ones which were decided by the board 4 days ago, our total capex is in the range about 2,325 crores. So this, and it's not actually an annual figure. It will peak at some time because all these projects are moving simultaneously. So it's something which we are keeping a track on. We are wanting to keep our balance sheet strong. Yes, we will have to borrow money. We'll do that. But our cash flows year on year will take care of the position of meeting our financial requirements. Amit or anyone else, do you want to add anything else on that?
Yeah, so what we in terms of we are
Amit, just put yourself on mute.
In terms of announced capexes, we are spending about 2,400 crores approximately over a period of next 2 years. So in terms of timing, they will vary whether we spend 50-50. But then, as mentioned in the beginning of the call as well, we assuming that the capex goes the way we have planned, this year end our debt level should be 100 crores net debt.
Yeah. So which will still be quite comfortable. So my question was, do you see a scope of increasing the intensity beyond 2,400 divided by 2 is 1,200 crores. So do you see that increasing over time? Because COVID uncertainty hopefully should also reduce, and our balance sheet is pretty strong right now.
Vikram, you're not on mute. Okay, go ahead, Vikram.
Yeah, we are studying various growth opportunities, and we are looking at various opportunities in all our businesses, possibly except urea and possibly except cement. So we expect growth opportunities to start maturing and being taken to the board as they mature. So from next financial year onwards, yes, there will be additional capex. There should be additional capex.
Understand, sir. Thank you so much, and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tejas Sheth from Nippon India. Please go ahead.
Yeah, apologies for earlier network issues.
Yeah.
On the grain-based ethanol, would the realizations be similar to C heavy or B heavy?
Amit, do you have the breakup of the different? Yes. So the realizations for grain-based are 51.55.
Okay.
Rupees per liter. So it varies. I mean, depending on the feedstock, the realization varies.
Okay. On the chlor-alkali expansion of 700 TPD, our earlier interaction, you had stated that it will take nearly 9 to 12 months once you people finalize. But the current timeline you have mentioned is Q4 FY23. So that's like more than 18 months to complete the project. Why is there such extension in timeline?
I think we'll have to check that. Amit, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So what we had mentioned, Tejas, was that it should take about 15 months to 18 months because that was the time we were expecting, even around that time. 18 months from now is more of an upper limit. right? Because we've just decided in this month itself that we want to go ahead, and then finalizing the plans and all that also will take a month or so, and then the ordering and all that will start. So I think that interest phase also needs to be covered up. So
Vikram, can you just put your, I think, on mute, yeah. Amit, go ahead.
Yes, I think 18 months is a reasonable number to be very sure of that, and we don't want to overpace it either, Tejas. Because if you look at the other capacities coming in, we want to ensure that when we come in, we don't flood the market. The market should be able to absorb. So we have done our calculation in that perspective also.
Okay. On the realization of caustic soda, there's huge gap between the import prices and the domestic prices. So how do you see those prices movement over next, or let's say over next 3-4 quarters? Would the import is expected to come down, or you expect that the domestic prices will move up and be at import parity?
I think the prices generally are at import parity. They move in that range, and as I mentioned earlier, India started exporting a lot more caustic soda, lye and flakes, which gives the advantage of not having too much excess capacity being sold in the domestic market. Plus, these aluminium manufacturers have started buying from here rather than importing caustic soda, because caustic soda prices outside also did go up a little bit. So I think the prices keep varying. There's nothing which is, and it depends. One is the international price varies, the domestic price varies, depends on supply and demand, and what is the export potential which happens. So I think these are the variable parameters that determine how the pricing happens.
Okay, but once things normalize, you see realizations at around 25,000-26,000?
Yes, I think we do feel we are in the range of 23 to 25 even today, and it moves in that range. So we are hoping it will stabilize at this range.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shanti Patel from Shanti Patel Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, when all our expansion plan materializes, or either in totality or step by step, what will be our return on capital and return on equity as on 31st March 22 and as on 31st March 23, taking into consideration the present situation?
Yes. Amit? Oh.
Hello. What's my question? I hope.
I was just saying that it's difficult to forecast an accurate number.
No, not accurate. Approximate.
I'm not giving an approximate number. I'm just saying it will be well above the cost of capital, and it will be a satisfactory return on ROCE.
No, but do you think that it will go up as compared to what is today?
It is very difficult to forecast when you're in commodity businesses and there are multiple new projects being commissioned and the capital intensity is going up. But you will understand that directionally the aim is to maintain a high ROCE and a high return on capital employed.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
And Shanti Patelji, I'll just mention, who had ever thought Corona will come? And look at the impact of Corona. There's a second wave which has come. They talk of a third wave. So, one has to be realistic to see what is the market also and what is the business environment.
No, that I agree with you. That is why I told, taking into consideration the present situation.
So the aim is to maintain a satisfactory and a balanced approach. So that even if there are problems, we don't have severe problems, and if things are satisfactory, we are doing well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Shrenik Bachawat from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So most of my questions are answered, but I just wanted to check that recently the PVC prices have started moving up. So what do you attribute the main reasons for it, and so what do you attribute the reason for the price increase in PVC recently?
KK? KK, could you please take that?
The line for Mr. Call just dropped. We're calling him back.
Acha, okay. Please call him back.
We have the line for Mr. KK call connected.
Yep. Is there a question for me?
Yeah, there's a question on PVC. Could you kindly repeat that?
Yeah, sir. So,
could you please repeat that?
Surely. So basically, recently, as we have seen that PVC price increased by 2 rupees from 15 July, I guess. So I wanted to understand, as we are seeing 19 rupees drop in PVC in the last 2 months, suddenly it has started increasing. So what has changed? Like, what is the key reason you feel about this?
Yeah. See the drop. We had seen peak of about 130 rupees a kg. Today we are at around 108, 119 rupees a kg, even 120 also. So the drop happened because of the demand reduction in the COVID period, second wave of COVID, particularly in the month of June. Now in July, this demand is gradually recovering up. So are the prices recovering up. We have seen as low as 110 rupees realization. Now it's gone to 120. And we expect it to go by another $30, $40 as we go along. Because the demand is picking up now. But it's still less than the pre-COVID period kind of a demand.
And sir, demand is coming mainly from housing segment, or do you have any other?
It's coming from both the housing, the pipes. Pipes is the largest consumer, as well as the cables and profiles. So it's coming from almost every sector. And we've seen a significant drop in the month of in Q1, particularly in the month of June. So it's recovering now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Karthik from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Sir, hi. Thank you for the follow-up. I just wanted to understand when you said, the new ethanol plant being a multi-feed, but can we assume safely that, 90% would still be from broken rice, at least to have a ballpark figure?
It's difficult to say 90% or 80 or 100. I mean, our aim is to actually try and run it on as much of broken rice as possible. We are exploring options of using cane juice as well, and if that is workable, in terms of economics, then we will we may use cane juice to also divert sucrose into ethanol and reduce our sugar stocks. So it's very difficult to give a percentage forecast, Karthik.
Sure, sir. So I understand. Sir, regarding one touch point on fertilizers, there was a mention regarding a breakdown that, put our capacity utilization only at 75. And so do we expect this sales to come back in this quarter? Because generally Q2 is quite strong, leading up. Just so I understand, are we seeing the volumes back?
Yes, the equipment which had broken down, that's been restored back. So now we expect this quarter we should be going back to the normal production, full production.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. We take the last question from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir, and thank you very much for the follow-up opportunity. Sir, just one clarification on this capex of 2,100 crore, including this Bharuch Chemical Complex. So we have seen such a sharp rise in commodity prices, steel, aluminium, and all these commodity prices have gone up almost 60% to 100%. Just wanted to review your capex plan. Will this capex numbers remain the same, or there is any significant changes which are there in the this capex plan, capex outlook?
Amit? Yeah, so see, given the prices we are reviewing now, right, because there may be some margin. We are reviewing the numbers, so we will come back with the exact amount.
So, sir, if we refresh as of now, this 120 megawatt power plant, I think it was earlier some 450 crore. If you can, sir, give those reviewed number right now.
Yeah, as I said, Rohan, we are reviewing it. For this 120 megawatt, there may be some increase, but those increases will not be significant, and it also does not significantly impact the return that we are targeted. So
if you remember, our hurdle rate generally is around 25%. So we should still be in that.
Okay. Okay, sir. Fine enough. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference back to the management team for closing comments.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation in our Q1 financial year 22 earnings conference call. We will continue to work on our strategic direction of growing our businesses, using scale, multiple revenue streams, enhancing efficiencies, and achieving higher integration. We will also ensure that the balance sheet and cash flow remain strong. With key capital investments announced earlier and recently of approximately 2,350 crores, we are poised to report better outcomes in the time to come. Once again, thank you very much, and we wish you safety and health during this difficult time of Corona. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
On behalf of DCM Shriram Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. You may now disconnect your lines.